I was a comic book reader, and I knew I wanted my own business, and I ended up. I was going to start a business with my wife. She's a cake decorator, and we were going to start a bakery. So I left my job and took a job with a lot less pay to try to get her business off the ground. And I got a job at a comic book store to make enough money to pay for my comic book habit. And I kind of saw how it worked, and I saw where it could improve and where maybe it could be better. And I was like, I want to go and try and I want to try and do this myself. And I always wanted to have my own business, but it's just a matter of what can you do that doesn't require a massive amount of startup cost. And anything like that, it's if you can buy used product, or if you can buy other people's old junk and resell it, then that's the easiest way. Then most things, if you want to be a retailer of new product, your markup is incredibly small. I mean, you're paying only 30% off the retail cost. This, when you buy a comic book collection, I mean, you can get them for fairly cheap. It's a cheap startup. It's just something you can get into, and then you jump into the higher things, like becoming a legitimate toy retailer and a comic book retailer. So it was kind of a weird mix of things happened. It was a way to make extra cash, and it just blew up. A massive collection walked in the door. I tried it out. It worked really well, and it's grown insanely high, and it's a competitive market here, at least in this town. But I got into video games just on a whim. So see, I love the classics. I collect cartridges, and that's what I always did. And I had a buddy who he and I trade comics all the time and deal in comics. He's like, I bought a storage unit out, and it had a bunch of NES cartridges and Super NES cartridges and all this. And you want those? You want to start selling games? I was like, no, I'll take a look at them for me. And he's like, well, I really need to move them. Can you set them in your store? I was like, sure, man. And I sold 3 or 4 in a day. And was like, shoot, I've got a nice collection of games. So I was like, I'll get it. And I love video games. I played through the PS1, got into the PS2 for a couple of games, then I reverted. I went backwards and started like really collecting. There's a relationship between the comic books and the video game market. There is, and honestly, it's a good supplement to the comics. It's just if I have a slow week in comics, I know I've got games and toys to pick it up. Generally, we're about once a month at comic shows and comic conventions, all over the place. But I try to stay local, because to me, it's the comic conventions are more about getting the business name out there than about making money. So we do Stebbins Con is in December 5th at Stebbins High School. They do that twice a year. December 12th is Jim and Dan's Comic and Toy Show at Hara Arena. November 14th is the Piqua Con up at the Piqua Armory. November 15th, there's a Toy and Hobby Show at the Hara Arena. So anything where it's more important to me to hand out business cards. To me, it's less, the success I have at shows is less about how much money I leave with in my pocket and more about how few business cards I have left at the end of it. That's where you meet people. That's where 80% of my customer base right now has come from. People who have lived in Huber, went to a show at Hara, I handed them a card, and that's how they found out I was in Huber. We'll generally pay 25 to 50% of retail value in cash, 50 to 75% in trade. That can fluctuate. So if I'm sitting on right now, I have 8 GameCubes. Obviously, the rate drops quite a bit. Now it's like, you bringing a GameCube to me, you're not going to get much for it until some of these start moving. But I'll make an offer on anything. If it's something I really need, even if I'm paying cash, I may go a little higher if it's something that I know I can move quick, you know what I mean? But I always try to keep it fair. It's people's stuff, and I try to be respectful of what they have. We did really well, had a lot of new people pop in, despite our technical difficulties, cash register breaking down and all that. But yeah, it was really, really well done, and I'm looking forward to part 2 tomorrow, the Comic Fest. Anything Deadpool, Batman, Minecraft. Those are the real big ones. Star Wars is huge right now. I can't seem to keep. When I moved in here, man, I probably had 10 totes of Star Wars merchandise that I brought with me, and I'm down to, I don't know, 2. You know, it's just been nuts in 2 months. So the Ninja Turtles are probably the biggest inspiration for me doing this. I was a Ninja Turtle freak when I was a kid, and it never left me. When I had my son, he's 3 now, but when he was about a year old, man, he picked up a Ninja Turtle toy, and it just took me back, and I wanted to share something with him. So I started collecting again and buying again and getting into it again, and you know, but that's I mean, we have a whole Ninja Turtle showcase here because that's my absolute favorite, you know, nerdery is the Turtles. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles #1, first print. That would be one, or an Albedo Anthropomorphics #2, first print. That's the first print of Usagi Yojimbo, which are 2 fairly well related. But the TMNT #1, and it's one of those things I can get them. The opportunities are arisen, but I'd love to find it in the wild.